In a previous video, we talked about how the glomerular hydrostatic pressure is the main driving force for the production of filtrate produced by the glomerulus. For this video, we're going to talk about how the afferent and efferent arterioles can modulate the glomerular hydrostatic pressure to bring about changes in the glomerular filtration rate. Let's briefly consider the main vascular and perfusion scheme at the level of the glomerulus. The glomerular capillaries are flanked by two arterioles, the afferent arteriole and the efferent arteriole. The afferent and efferent arterioles are the main resistive elements within the renal vasculature. Blood entering the kidneys from the renal artery has a relatively high hydrostatic pressure. We can approximate it to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 millimeters of mercury as a mean arterial pressure. That blood passes sequentially through the afferent arteriole, glomerulus, and then efferent arteriole before returning to the venous side of circulation via the renal vein. By then, the blood pressure has dropped to a relatively low pressure value, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 millimeters of mercury. This represents an overall pressure drop of 100 millimeters of mercury between the blood on the arterial side of circulation compared to the pressure of the blood on the venous side of circulation. How that pressure drop is distributed across the afferent and efferent arterioles determines what the hydrostatic pressure in the glomerulus will be, which will ultimately determine the glomerular filtration rate. In order to understand how this works, we have to review some fundamental pressure flow relationships. The first thing you need to remember is that pressure is a form of potential energy, and that potential energy can be used to move fluid or create a flow through a resistive pathway. Second, resistance is the energy cost for producing a flow through that resistive pathway. If the resistance is relatively high, then the energy cost for producing a flow through that pathway will also be relatively high. Therefore, as a fluid is moving through a resistive pathway, a certain amount of pressure is lost. That pressure lost represents the energy spent to create that fluid movement. These first three features of pressure flow relationships describe why it is that the blood pressure drops as blood moves between the arterial side of circulation that has a relatively high blood pressure to the venous side of circulation that has a relatively low blood pressure. This fourth relationship is probably the most important and most specific to understanding how it is that the afferent and efferent arterioles ultimately determine the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. And that is, for resistive pathways with multiple resistive elements in series, the greatest pressure loss occurs across the largest resistive element. Remember, the afferent and efferent arterioles are the main resistive elements within the renal vasculature. Therefore, pressure is lost as the blood is passing through these individual resistive elements. Because these are resistive elements in series, the greatest amount of pressure lost will occur across the arteriole that has the highest resistance. Let's first consider a situation where we assume the afferent and efferent arterioles to be of equal resistance. This is a little bit of a simplification because in actuality, the afferent and efferent arterioles have differing diameters, which would produce altered resistances. But this effect is somewhat negated by the fact that the blood loses volume as filtration is occurring within the glomerulus. So again, let's assume the afferent and efferent arterial resistances to be equal. If the resistances are equal, we could expect that the pressure drop of the blood as it's moving through these individual resistors will also be equal. This graph represents the landscape of blood pressures within the different vascular segments within the kidney. Note that the blood pressure is entering the kidneys via the renal artery at a relatively high blood pressure of 110 millimeters of mercury. That blood ultimately distributes down towards the afferent arterioles, which is the first resistive element in this vascular series. Because the afferent arteriole is one of the main resistive elements, the blood pressure drops as it is moving through the afferent arteriole. We could expect the first pressure drop to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 millimeters of mercury. This blood then reaches the glomerulus. The glomerulus has relatively low vascular resistance, therefore, little to no pressure drop occurs as the blood is moving through the glomerulus. After the pressure drop within the afferent arteriole, we could expect the glomerular hydrostatic pressure to be 60 millimeters of mercury. The blood that remains unfiltered then moves to the efferent arteriole, which is the second main resistive element. Blood pressure once again drops as it's moving through this resistive element, and we can estimate that pressure drop to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 millimeters of mercury. Based on these values, we would then expect the hydrostatic pressure of the blood to be approximately 10 millimeters of mercury by the time it reaches the peritubular capillaries and renal vein. An important consequence of these pressure drops is the resulting hydrostatic pressure within the glomerulus. Remember, this hydrostatic pressure determines the net filtration pressure, ultimately determining the glomerular filtration rate. Changes to this hydrostatic pressure, either increasing or decreasing, produce corresponding changes to the net filtration pressure and ultimately the glomerular filtration rate. Changes in afferent and efferent arterial resistance can alter the distribution of these pressure drops with the consequence of modulating the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. For the first set of scenarios, let's imagine what happens when there are changes to vascular resistance that make it such that the afferent arteriole now has a higher resistance than the efferent arteriole. This can be accomplished through either vasoconstriction of the afferent arteriole, which increases the resistance of the afferent arteriole, or likewise, this can also be brought about by vasodilation of the efferent arteriole, which decreases the resistance of the efferent arteriole. In either case, the resistance of the afferent arteriole is made to be larger than the resistance of the efferent arteriole. Because the resistance of the afferent arteriole is now larger than the resistance of the efferent arteriole, as blood is moving through the afferent arteriole, it will experience the larger pressure drop. So comparing it to the original condition where we had equal resistance, if the afferent arterial resistance is higher, we could expect that blood entering from the renal artery to experience a large pressure drop as it's making its way through the afferent arteriole. The consequence of this is that now the glomerular hydrostatic pressure will be lower than normal. Based on these values, we estimate it to be approximately 35 millimeters of mercury. Blood then leaving the glomerulus entering the efferent arteriole experiences the second pressure drop, which happens to be relatively small, again because it has a smaller resistance compared to the afferent arterial resistance. So the consequence of these changes, where the afferent arterial resistance is made to be larger than the efferent arterial resistance, is a decrease in the glomerular hydrostatic pressure, which would tend to produce a reduction in the net filtration pressure and a reduction in the glomerular filtration rate. Now let's consider the set of conditions that will produce it such that now the resistance of the efferent arteriole is made to be greater than the resistance of the afferent arteriole. This can be accomplished by vasodilation of the afferent arteriole, decreasing the resistance of the afferent arteriole, or vasoconstriction of the efferent arteriole, increasing the resistance of the efferent arteriole. Again, in either case, the resistance of the efferent arteriole is made to be greater than the resistance of the afferent arteriole. This means now that blood entering the afferent arteriole from the renal artery will now experience a relatively small pressure drop, again because it has a relatively low resistance compared to the efferent arteriole. When this occurs, the hydrostatic pressure will tend to be higher than normal, in this case 75 millimeters of mercury. Blood then leaving the glomerulus, entering the efferent arteriole, will now experience the larger pressure drop, again due to the relatively high resistance of the efferent arteriole. The overall consequence of the resistance of the efferent arteriole being greater than the afferent arteriole is we can expect to see an increase in the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. This would tend to increase the net filtration pressure, ultimately resulting in an increase in the glomerular filtration rate. So there you have it. We have two sets of changes in afferent or efferent arterial resistance, bringing about two different outcomes, either an increase or a decrease in the glomerular hydrostatic pressure, resulting in increases or decreases in the glomerular filtration rate, respectively. Changes in the glomerular hydrostatic pressure is probably the single most important mechanism for modulating the glomerular filtration rate. Although it might be the most important mechanism, it isn't the only mechanism by which the GFR can be affected. The other main parameter that can be modulated to bring about changes in the glomerular filtration rate is the glomerular oncotic pressure. If the glomerular oncotic pressure is determined by the protein concentration, how are the kidneys capable of producing changes in the protein concentration resulting in changes in the glomerular oncotic pressure? The short answer to that is that the protein concentration within the glomerulus, and therefore the glomerular oncotic pressure, is sensitive to changes in renal blood flow or renal plasma flow. The rate of blood flow through the glomerulus is controlled by the overall resistances of the afferent and efferent arterioles. In my next video, I'll discuss how the afferent and efferent arterial resistances can control renal blood flow and how that in turn can influence the glomerular oncotic pressure.